Reggie. Well, not too fast because I'm sure we got something on the political perspective that you can soapbox about. It's been a very
Ooh,
can you even say it's been an eventful week because all the weeks are eventful, really?
yes.
Um
I mean, and um, this is the political perspective. Reggie MB, TBD, the radio show. If you are not political, you do not have a perspective. So, finish your thought, B, just about how the news cycle with politics is just
oh my
it's
goodness.
not
It's
boring.
just
If
it
anything, it's
definitely
not
not
boring.
born. So Charlie Kirk was murdered a week ago. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but yes, a week ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered. And it's been interesting for me, who was familiar with Charlie Kirk, but not familiar with all the things he said. But it's been interesting for me to watch Charlie Kirk be painted as some type of martyr or overall good
So
guy.
yeah,
Um, and
and
it's I
it's,
saw
it's,
real quick.
it's
I saw that October 14th is going to be Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. It's like strange because he was just a podcaster who said some off-putting things to some groups. I'll put it like that.
yeah.
He said a
So
lot of off-putting things to marginalized groups is what I'll say.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that the effort to like sanitize Charlie Kirk's own words is just the height of just revisionist history.
Right.
And I think it gives you the exact temperature of our country.
Right.
That someone like Charlie Kirk, who is well documented for just some of the controversial, really outlandish things that he said, and to try to sanitize his who he was because he died, and to make it appear like we're not listening to what we're hearing. And the only argument that I got, the only argument that I've heard that even made any sense was that the kind of the conversation about what he said happened too quickly after he died, right? That it should have just been thoughts and prayers and just left it at that, at least for a period of time,
Hmm.
until his, whoever, whatever. But unfortunately, as a public figure, you don't have that luxury. That
Hmm.
people are going to look at what you said, and they're going to talk about it because you were controversial. But it's what I think is just horrible is when people try to like justify a lot of the things that he said.
Right.
And there's no justification to get shot and killed, just for your opinion, regardless of how much I disagree with it. I think it's terrible. There's no justification for somebody to shoot you
Right.
because of that. But we can't, as a society, and I guess we do, but we can't, as a society, um, try to sanitize how you live just because you may have died in a horrible way.
That's the
And
worst.
and how the government has really become a just a bullhorn for Charlie Kirk and his views. I mean, the vice president was a guest. He was the guest host on Charlie Kirk's show, in the Oval Office. Why is the vice president on a podcaster show? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it just gives you an idea of where we're at as a country. But
What up? What up? What up? It's your boy James, aka Ralph's favorite. Now I know you're thinking to yourself, James, why am I not watching the video? Chill. We're gonna get to the video. But before we do that, I want to say on behalf of TBD, we appreciate you for taking the time out to watch this video. And we appreciate you for listening to the podcast. More importantly, we just appreciate you taking the time to be with us, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you are here with us today. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to first like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're not, and then hit that notification bell so that way you're notified when we drop a new video. And remember, it's all TBD. Now let's go ahead and get back to that video.
Probably the biggest kind of story about involving Charlie Kirk's death, and Charlie Kirk's death is going to be so much ramification in media and social media. I mean, I had explained that I had someone threaten to call my job and get me fired or in trouble just because I disagree with Charlie Kirk in Charlie Kirk's own words. But we have Jimmy Kimmel, the late night host. His show has been preempted, which in normal terms means that it's been canceled. And his show was canceled in part because people just did not like Jimmy Kimmel's politics. They felt as though he was very biased in his jokes about the president. However, the real reason that Jimmy Kimmel's show was canceled was because the federal government, through the FCC Chairman, pretty much was on a podcast and put out a statement that if ABC doesn't get rid of Jimmy Kimmel, then the FCC is going to get involved. And behind the scenes, there's a merger between these two big news station owners that the FCC has direct influence in whether or not they will allow this business deal to go through. So the FCC chairman pretty much just threatened ABC and said, if you don't get rid of Charlie Kirk, then we're gonna step in. And then the next day, Charlie Kirk is gotten rid of. Now, the reason why that's important is because most people know and understand. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel. The reason why that's important is because most people, if they know any of the Constitution, they know the First Amendment, right? Which is freedom of speech. The most random person, the most random American knows freedom of speech, right? First Amendment, right? But what people don't understand about the First Amendment is the spirit of the First Amendment says that the government does not have the ability to silence you. Now, what that means is that the government cannot use its influence, its power to stop your speech.
Right.
When people think of freedom of speech, they don't really think about the government's the government component of freedom of speech. It's not me versus you. It's not job versus you. All freedom of speech means is that the government cannot come in and limit your speech or stop your speech. And the reason why is because that if the government is allowed to stop speech and stop expression, then that means that the government will no longer be able to accept criticism or opposition. I'll just shut that down. So that's like the spirit of it. So with the FCC getting involved, that is a way to silence people without it actually being them prohibiting and violating the First Amendment. So threatening your employer, your employer is allowed to silence you. Now the government is putting pressure on your employer to silence you, which is just the new kind of way that Trump and his administration is attacking the media, so they do not have any dissenting voices towards them. So Trump is doing it all across the board, like ABC. He sued and won. He sued universities. He sued anyone that has that's not in line with them. They use the government to silence those voices. So we are, if anybody's not paying attention, that is the first kind of domino in an authoritarian government is silencing people's speech, and you can't. But what people don't realize is how strategic it is. Like the government can't directly silence you, but if the government says, if you a company doesn't do what I say, you need to fire this person. I can't make you, but if I say, well, I just won't fund you, or
Right.
I won't allow your business merger if you don't. And it's being said that explicitly. So I
Yeah.
know that was a long-winded, but it's just important uh for us to kind of just keep track of how the government is interfering with so many institutions. It's very alarming.
It's
Um,
very
okay.
it's a scary time. For personally, I'm just watching, just observing. It's scary in the sense that it's only been 8 months,
Ooh.
and it's only been 8 months, and a lot of the things that seem preposterous at the beginning of the 8 months don't seem as preposterous anymore. Just watching these companies and institutions fold and bend the knee, quote unquote, to whatever you want. Um, I would not be surprised if in 2028 there is no election. It's trending that way because everyone's scared, and it's been very eye opening as far as what you think. Uh, the country is, and what they stand on, or what the country stands on, because this one guy and his administration is dangling carrots over your head and saying, if you don't do X, I won't give you Y, and everybody's doing X. So it's just scary times. But
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple more things, but I'm gonna talk about Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris, she has a memoir that's coming out, I think September 23rd, which is called 107 Days, which kind of documents her, her run for president, her, historic run for president, even though it was 107 days. But it kind of gives you a window into what that process looks like, and her account of what happened during those 107 days. So uh, different excerpts of her memoir is being kind of leaked. That's what they do when someone releases a book. They release different excerpts before the book comes out. It's like teasers. So this one particular excerpt I thought was very interesting, and it involved phone calls that Kamala Harris received from Joe Biden and from Donald Trump.
mhm,
And one of the phone calls from Joe Biden, she characterized as a very, very kind of angry phone call from Joe Biden. And this was around the time where she was preparing for the presidential debate that she had in Philly. And he called, apparently, in her words, he called her, complaining about how she had characterized him in front of a group of donors, and there was some type of threat for the Philadelphia donors not to support her. And
mhm,
what was interesting about it is this was apparently on the eve of the debate. So,
mhm,
just as a human and her having to go into the most important debate of her life and having, some type of negative energy from, from Joe Biden, I think speaks to just her kind of resolve as a person, and kind of how really like rugged like politics is,
mhm,
for Joe Biden to make that phone call. But if you saw her performance during the debate, I mean, you can see that she's a skilled debater. She knows her shit. She did an excellent job. I mean, I watched it live. I thought she did a great job. So, but kind of seeing what was going on in the background, just
mhm,
kind of makes me kind of respect her performance. That night. But the second phone call that she talks about comes from Donald Trump. Right. So
mhm,
she received a phone call from Donald Trump. She looks at two phone calls that she received from Donald Trump. And the first one, what she described as being just very, very cordial. This was after Donald Trump was shot. She talked to him, and he said she was like very she said he was very complimentary of her and her job. He said, and she said that Trump told her, "You've done a great job. You really have." And he said, "My problem is it makes it very hard for me to be angry at you. It's like, what am I going to do? How do I say bad things about you?" And she says, "Well, then don't." And he said, "I'm going to tone it down." This is her recollection of the conversation, which you
Hmm.
would think that type of conversation would never happen with Trump, right? I'm going to be
Right.
making a larger point when we're done. But the second conversation, um, the second conversation he had was when she conceded defeat during a presidential election, and she said that Trump told her that he's going to be nice and respectful to her, and he said that you are tough, you are a smart customer, and I say that with great respect, and you also have a beautiful name, right?
Mm.
And then proceeded to call her Kamala Harris, not
Oh,
whatever
he was
version
able to
of what.
pronounce it.
Yes, was able to pronounce her name. Now that really kind of struck a chord with me because yesterday I heard Trump call her Kamala Harris and not Kamala, as he
Yeah.
had during the
Yeah.
campaign trail. All of that is all of that to me means that Trump, like everybody, like most politicians, is just acting.
Yeah.
Like if any of this is true, and I have no reason to believe that it's not true, right? And like I said, he suddenly knows how to say Kamala and not Kamala. He suddenly knows how to say that now. If you look at him even referencing her now, he says her name properly. But it's kind of like it makes you just kind of realize just how ugly like politics is. Um, so I just thought it was just something very just interesting, like excerpts with those phone calls from the two presidents.
I'm not saying this about them, but I definitely think there are, well, I am saying it about Trump, but I think there are politicians who definitely engage in confusing the American public to take the money. like, like, hey,
Yeah,
hate this person for this, and you hate this person for that. Meanwhile, they're doing deals to take the money, and it boils down to that for me. I mean,
yeah,
I know
no,
a lot. Some
absolutely,
of it's power and control, but I think a lot of it is we just really want the money to be funneled this way and you not pay attention to it. So hate this person for that and you hate this person for that. And it's really
yeah,
sad because, you know, we are more alike than we are different. And if we were to realize that on a large scale, we could flip this shit all the way upside down.
yeah, and so
But
much good could be done
yeah, it,
if we all kind of collectively understood that
the rules are
it's
fucking
always
made
about
up.
and it's always about the money. I mean, you mentioned
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's always about the money.
Yeah.
Last thing, and this is just a message to our to our audience is the CDC is delaying the MMRV vaccine for toddlers in case someone has any children, and they're also changing the vaccine time frame. So that's something that if anyone has children, grandchildren that are young, the CDC is changing a lot of things, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. The most important thing is that you should partner with your physician to make sure you're making the best choices for yourself and for your children. But that's something that our audience should take a look at, just the CDC and how they have changed since Robert F. Kennedy has been um, their uh, their secretary.
Mm. That's good
All
shit.
right.
That's good shit, Reggie. That's great. You want to close out the political perspective?
Just if you are not political, then you do not have a perspective, and it's hard unless you under a rock. My daughter asked me about Charlie Kirk. She's like, she said she wanted to come and talk about Charlie Kirk. Like, if you don't if you are not political, then you don't really have a perspective.
Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.